I have a love-hate relationship with social media or with the media period because I feel like a lot of stuff that's being said or being talked about is being filtered. Meaning the person that's talking about it or showing it, they aren't giving a real honest take about it.
What is up, guys? Thank you for taking the time to listen to the podcast episode of TTBL with your podcast host, Nate Lariat, which is me. And as you can see, we have another guest with us this week. Just excited to be able to interview once another person of podcasting career and journey to be able to take along with you guys and with them as we just talk about things that they've done, the things that they're experiencing, and just the wonderful stories that they have to tell. So if he doesn't mind introducing himself, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, appreciate you, man, for having me on here. My name is Mark. I go by Juice. I'm from Tampa, Florida. Moved down to Tallahassee in 2013. I started working for the state 2015. Um, and I started my podcast last year in August. So I've been doing that almost going on a year. And my podcast is called The Culture Shift. And it's basically about entertainment, real life, sports, music, stuff like that. What I want to do with my podcast really is really bring information and positivity to people, uplift them. It's not a page, it's not a podcast that's clickbait, gossip, nothing like that. It's more so just really just trying to teach men and just other people that's around the world and give them our culture and just show them that we all can be together as one. It don't have to be divided.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I think that we're on the same kind of atrospect when it comes to the morals of a podcast. For me, my podcast is again to bring light, but at the same time, I've learned that as much as goes on, I've seen that become a community person. I just like hearing the community, listening to the people, learning about different cultures, different views. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that we have the same morals, at least in the podcasting uh, meaning of what we want for our podcast. My first question to you is, well, that was kind of one of my first questions. You said you've been podcasting for a year. So, being in the podcasting career and media industry, what's your biggest take on your experience so far?
Man, my biggest take is I would say be consistent and authentic. And the reason why I say that is because I try to look at another reason why that got me into podcasting is because I used to be one of those people that sit home all day watching videos. So I kind of was thinking like, because I like to talk, I like to give my opinion on stuff. Um, so I was like, you know what? Let me try to do that because I got tired of when I would click on something that said one thing, but then the video was something completely different. It was just clickbait. It wasn't authentic. And I think a lot of the social media world now is built on lies and it's not authentic. So a
Mhm.
lot of times you got to search, you got to know how to maneuver around the social media atmosphere so that you don't kind of get caught up in that false reality. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that I've kind of learned that even though fake news sells and drama sells, it gets views. If you really paying attention to the people in the comments and what people really want, it's not that. They want just something genuine. They want an authentic person. They don't want something or somebody because it's enough of those people around. They want somebody that's actually gonna give it to them raw, real, and honest, and not just say something that they think that other people want to hear. So I
Yeah,
think that's my biggest thing, man. Just being consistent and being authentic.
I agree. When you said authentic and you're talking about the genuineness of a person, podcasting is, and as it's growing, I think that more people are starting to do that because you have, like you said, there's so much news going out now, and there's so much in the world that you can't stay silent or blinded by what one thing says. And as podcasting becomes such a bigger thing now, Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The more genuine that you are, the more authenticity you have, the more that you draw in the audience, the more that you bring in people, the more that people are willing to want to listen. And, you know, again, that spreads light, that spreads truth, that spreads
Right.
what you want for not only your podcast, but what you want for your community. I like
Right.
that. I like that.
And if you don't
Uh,
mind me adding something, if you don't mind me adding
yeah.
something, like take it for instance, like if you at some point, if you get into the, if at some point your true self is gonna show itself.
Yeah.
It's no way possible that forever you're gonna be able to put on a a fake cloth for social. At some point in time, something's gonna come up or something's gonna happen to where who you are is truly gonna come out. So it's
Right.
better to be that way from Jump Street because
Right.
it's hard to come back from it.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Uh, with you being in podcasting, have you interviewed anybody or been,
Yes,
or you,
I've interviewed a few people actually. I've when it first started off, I
mm,
was doing like this series where I was basically doing a series on the slave trade, and I wanted to give a different perspective on how we in America live and how history is taught here
mm,
versus in another country. For instance, the guest that I interviewed, he lived in Ghana. That's where he's from. That's where he lives at. So I basically interviewed him on how what life is like as a Ghanaian living over
mm,
there, what the government's like, some of the experiences, some of the hardships that you go through, crime, uh, the history. What history are y'all taught? For instance, they don't even know who Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. They don't know none of these people that we look up and idolize. You
mm,
feel me?
mm-hmm,
So that was one of my main goals with my podcast is to bring light and information, something real from different parts of the world to where we can kind of look and say, dang, because a lot of times we in America, we spoiled because
yeah,
we feel like because our because we have the freedom that we have, a lot of times we take that for granted. When I talked to this guy in Ghana, it made me realize how it made me realize that the stuff that I complained about here is nothing compared to the stuff that they go through and complain about over there.
mm, wow. I'm gonna hold on to that tidbit. So I'm gonna piggyback off of my first question. So do you like to be interviewed or interviewing?
Um, Actually, I really don't have a preference. I like them both. I like
Mm,
them both. I feel like they both have their pros. I won't
mm,
really say it's no cons to either, but I enjoy both because I actually appreciate it because when I'm actually the one that's being interviewed, I kind of understand the person that's actually the interviewee,
mm-hmm.
and when I'm the interviewee, I understand that the person that's being interviewed. You get what I'm saying? So I feel it from
Yeah,
both sides. So it makes it a little easier to do it in a way because when I'm sitting on the other side, I know how I might be feeling if I was the one that's being interviewed. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I really don't have a preference. I enjoy them both because um I do like to talk about myself a little bit, but more so about what I have going on, not myself, if that makes sense.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah, I got you. Now I want to jump back real quick. So you were talking about how you spoken to the Ghanaian man and how he was telling you all that. What's to stem from that? The question I'm trying to stem from that is, what kind of topics have you talked about? What's your most interesting topic, and kind of like where do your topics lead to when you are? Where do your topics lead to when you're interviewing? Where can it go in a sense of the conversation?
So that's that's one of the things that I like about interviewing. I'm gonna give you a little uh I guess like a little tidbit on like how I do it.
Mm,
So basically I will go in in an interview with the understanding of what it is that I'm trying to get from that interview or from that person, right? But
Hmm.
for the most part, I do not script any interviews. I like for it to be genuine. I like for it that now I might come in with a few questions that I want to know, that I
Right.
feel like may better help the viewer understand what we're talking about and discussing.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I want it to be a genuine conversation, because I feel like when you're talking, when you're having a conversation versus you just asking a person a question, the dialogue is much better, because
Right.
now you might be opening doors or avenues to other discussions that might not have been open had you just kept it at a question, type of thing. So I mean, they lead to pretty much any and everything. We could be talking about one thing, and that topic might bring us to something completely different, just based on that little nugget that we were talking about. So, but yeah, that's pretty much like how I like some of the topics. Like I said, it was the slave trade, um, what it's like growing up in Ghana, in another country, uh, the different how our histories differ.
Hmm.
What are y'all being taught versus what are we being taught? You get what I'm saying? Our histories are completely different. What their history is completely different from what our history is. And what's crazy is that I guess I should have known that, but it didn't even dawn on me when I
Yeah.
was interviewing them. It didn't even dawn on me that their history is completely different from ours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thinking about that, you're right, because we have they came here, they did their thing as slaves for X amount of years, but Ghanaians, Africans, they know they left, and then we kind of continued our lives. So that's
Right.
that's pretty interesting.
Exactly. Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Where where do you get your inspiration, your push to do this? As in, we get it that you want to spread light. So was it uh, a parent, a grandparent, a person that spoke to you that was random that just kind of pushed you and said, "Hey, I might want to do this now, and I might want to give my take on what how I see it and the things that I do."
Man, so I'm gonna say this. Growing up, I was a crazy debater. Like,
Hmm.
I always wanted to give my opinion on something, whether it was my business or not. And my mom, man, I just remember my mom. She used to always tell me growing up, man. She used to say, "You could be a lawyer, because the way you argue is just ridiculous."
Yeah.
So I say that to say, um, that plus what I said earlier, as far as I get on social media or I watch a video, I might click something and the video is completely different. I just personally, I have a love hate relationship with social media, or with the media, period. Because I feel like a lot of stuff that's being said or being talked about is being filtered. Meaning the person that's talking about it or showing it, they aren't giving a real honest take about it. They're saying whatever they feel the masses want to hear.
Hmm.
So when or for instance, when I watch my sports shows, when I used to watch my sports shows in the morning, and I watch them debating about whatever topic they're debating about, and in my head, I just used to say, man, like, yo, I could do that, like, because
Hmm.
the stuff that they're saying, or it just don't even be making sense sometimes. So I just, like I said, I just like to debate. I like to give my opinion on certain things. I like dialogue. I like having conversations. So that, I guess, that all of that just kind of led to me um wanting to do podcasting. And also too, what really gave me that push, because I always thought, and just to be clear, me doing a podcast, that wasn't even a thought until maybe a year or so ago.
Hmm.
But all of those things, that my mom telling me that I could be a lawyer, or me feeling like I always wanted to get my opinion on something, that all that came from somewhere, and it all led to me coming here and being a podcaster now, because going through all of that, not really having an outlet to talk, I feel like that's what my podcast is. It's my outlet to talk. It's my outlet to be able to relieve some stress. Like I just did a podcast episode on mental health. I just did one
Hmm.
on I just recorded one on what it's like to be a girl dad. I just did another one on finding closure. All of those things are in relation to me and how I feel. You know, things that's going on in my life. Finding closure. That was something that I needed to do to move forward. And like I told you earlier before our podcast, I gave my life to God yesterday. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
these are just all things that just been manifesting in me, and it just took something to happen to push me to do it. And specifically with podcasting, it was a therapist. I had a therapy session with a therapist, and she kind of pushed me to do it.
So in before you were podcasting in that, we'll say that year ago time frame, what did the events look like for you to kind of just like, I think that this is a sign that I need to do something? Was it just was it just the people around you? Was there like a literal sign, or was it a metaphoric sign, or was it just that popped in your head one day? You woke up that morning, like, I gotta start this podcast. I gotta go.
That's a great question. Basically, what happened, what my life was like. Remember, I told you I had a therapist, and
Mm,
I still have my therapist. Um, Basically, what happened was is my job. Right now, I work for the Department of Corrections.
mm,
I work in HR. I'm an HR analyst, and um, basically, what happened is I just was unhappy at the job, and I broke my hand outside of work.
mm,
Uh, and my bosses called me in the office. They asked me what happened. We had a conversation. They ended up having me go do like a counseling or something like that. So I was kind of against it at first,
mm,
but I tried to look at it in a different light. I tried to look at it, I tried to take a positive from it and say, hey, maybe I can learn something from it, because I did break my hand because I was angry. I punched a wall.
mm,
But so I talked to the therapist, man, and I was letting her know what was going on, how I was feeling, my job. And it was my job that was really stressing me out. And it wasn't like nothing major, but it's like when you do your job right and they don't have nothing to mess with you with, they find stuff. You get what I'm saying? So it's
yeah,
like little
yeah,
nagging things that they want to mess with because they can't get you with your work.
yeah.
And so you know what? I was like, I'll go ahead and take the therapist, whatever. I talked to the therapist, and as I explained to the therapist what was going on, she let me know, hey, they shouldn't have did that in the first place, as far as getting in your business, because that was something that happened outside of work, and it wasn't. It was something personal. You didn't go to jail. Nothing
Mm,
affected your job, so they shouldn't even had did all of that. But God works in mysterious ways,
mm,
because it was her that said, and mind you, these therapists are contracted by my job, by Department of Correction, the state of Florida. So um, they work for them. So the fact
yeah,
that she was on the phone telling me, we need to get you out of this job, and we need to get you something doing something else. Now this was last year. I'm still there, but I'm happy. You feel
mm,
me? And that's kind of where that kind of led to. It was the therapist. It was the therapy sessions. Now it wasn't the first time. It was maybe the third or fourth time, because I
mm,
remember her telling me I needed to reflect, figure out what it was that would make me happy, what it is that I wanted to do, and that's what that was. I truly wanted to make content. In my very first podcast episode, when I talked about what got me started into this, and I talked about me burning my grandma's house down and how all us almost died, and what was kind of giving me inspiration. In that episode, I talked about the fact that I'm not doing this podcast for views. I don't
mm,
care. I don't care. I'm not trying to be the biggest podcaster. I'm not trying to get all of the likes. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for genuine people,
yeah.
people who genuinely want to know or want to learn about what it is that I got to show them. and that's kind of what got me here. She was talking to me about it when I talked to her and I had my next therapy session. I let her know. I said, "Hey, listen, I think this is what I want to do. I want a podcast. I want to make content. I want to give my opinions on stuff. I want to express myself." And I even have podcast episodes like that where I haven't released them yet, but I have podcast episodes where what they're called therapy sessions, and maybe you could even uh, uh, maybe piggyback off of this and apply it to yourself. But a therapy session, basically, it's like a round table for men or women, and we talk. We sip wine and we talk. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about their life, what they got going on, what they're going through. Uh, we talk about things that's going on around the world, and it's a real therapy session. It's you sitting down on the couch, you chilling, you hanging out, comfortable, and you having a conversation. And I tell you, every single time, the person has felt better afterwards because it's not even looked at as a therapy session. You just talking, just two people talking, and you have a camera recording.
And is this like connected, or is it, kind of like this Zoom wise, or do you?
It's in person. So it's in
Okay.
person. I provide the wine. I provide the liquor or wine, whatever it is that the person want.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I haven't released those yet because it was something that I just wanted to try, just
Mm-hmm.
to see how it would work, and it's been going good. But yeah, it's in person. I asked the person whoever it is, what their favorite drink is. If it's wine or if it's liquor, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
and then, we have a sit down and we talk.
Do you take yourself to be a content creator, social media influencer, or are you just kind of like the person in the background that is noticed but doesn't want to be seen in the spotlight? How do you
Yes,
take yourself in the podcasting career?
that last one was actually the perfect way to explain it. It's me. I'm in the background,
Hmm.
and I really don't like the spotlight. I hate it. I hate the spotlight. Uh, I don't know why. I just never was big on uh just big crowds or just anything big. I just never been, and that could be, and that could actually be a con for me. I probably should embrace it a little more, but um, I just feel like with spotlight, it brings the wrong attention sometimes, and that's not what I'm for. I want nothing but positive energy, positive vibes, and I know it's impossible for me to get that at all times. But and that's crazy too because I do want my podcast and stuff like that, the stuff that I talk about to reach as many people as possible. And
Right,
I
right.
know with that comes spotlight,
Spotlight. Hmm.
right? So it's a double-edged sword for me.
When you think about it, I feel like there's a way that you could, well, at least how I see it, because I feel you, and I feel that there's a way to touch so many people, but at the same time still be in the background. And it's not necessarily saying that somebody else takes the credit, but it's giving it to somebody else and allowing them to kind of work with your vision, allowing them to be like, hey, this is what I got. This is the lineup. This is what I want to do. And you giving them their leeway to express themselves on how you want it to be done, but still saying, I see myself in that. So I get what you're saying, and I understand the double edged sword. I
Hmm.
definitely get that.
That's actually a good analogy though, because that's actually what a lot of people do. That's actually how the world really is a lot of the times. I mean,
Hmm.
the person that actually created something or invented something, they normally don't get the credit. It's the person after. It's the person
Right,
that
right.
that comes in and makes it better. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
And so, but that person always who kind of was the originator, they always kind of get that little quick little. This person was the one that originated, but this person was the one that actually you know, made something happen with it.
Mm.
But you know, it all depends on the person though, and
And I think,
what it is that they're what their aspirations are. If it's for uh, attention or uh, recognition, you know, for me, I know in death, none of this stuff matters.
right, right.
None of this world stuff, recognition, being a legacy, none of that stuff matter in this world for real.
Hmm.
We make it important, but it don't matter for real. Cause when you dead, it's a wrap.
Right. And I think it goes back to the genuineness that you were talking about. It's the matter of how genuine are you going to be to understand that I gave you my time, my credit, my inspiration, my envisions, well, my visions. So how genuine are you going to be to not discredit me, not look away from what I gave you, but at the same time understand that, hey, in the background, I want you to still know this. I still want you to acknowledge that he's the originator, he's the creator. I made it look better, but he's the one that gave me this to be able to make it look better.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm a kind of, if it's all right with you, I'm gonna
Yeah.
kind of shift off the topic just a little bit, just to kind of
Hmm.
give an example of like
Yeah.
how the world is. We take O.J. Simpson.
Hmm.
He just died recently, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Um. So I actually just had a post on Twitter. I don't. Do you know who Tariq Nasheed is? Have you ever heard of him?
No. No, I have
Okay.
not.
So have you ever heard of Dr. Umar Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Umar and Tariq Nasheed are kind of like the same. Okay.
Okay.
The difference is Tariq Nasheed just does it a little different. Almost like how Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. was. They
Hmm.
had the same goal, vision kinda, but they just had a different way of getting there.
Hmm.
Tariq Nasheed is that. He's just a he's kind of he's more out there than Dr. Umar. But
Hmm.
he made a post on Twitter about O.J. Simpson, basically saying if basically talking about he was innocent, okay, which is fine if you think that, that's your opinion. All right, whatever.
Hmm.
But this is I got on the post and I told him, I said, listen, if you're saying he didn't kill him, who killed him? Because I
Hmm.
think OJ did it. And my comment, my response, it blew up. It got over 160 something thousand views,
Hmm.
and my mentions were blowing up for days. I bring that up to say it does. For us, it don't matter right or wrong. It don't matter.
Hmm.
They feel at one point you gonna always have those people that know what the truth is,
Yeah.
but just because of circumstances or whatever situation, they look past that. It's a lot of people that know O.J. Simpson killed those people or feel like they did.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna say this: nobody can be 100% sure he did it because we
Hmm.
weren't there.
Right, right.
So so excuse me. So with me saying that, I say that to say it's just the world that we live in. It's not about right, wrong. It's just about what views. That's it. What
Mm.
views? What views? Like the dude killed two people. If he killed two people for real, then he's guilty, bro. Like nobody should be excusing that.
Mm.
You feel me? If y'all feel like he was framed for it, and I get what happened with Rodney King back then, he got beat, and they say that was the reason why OJ got off. Whatever the
Mm.
case may be. But at the same time, we can't make excuses for nobody.
Right.
We can't be making excuses for nobody, and that's like how social media is. Social media, you could feel one way in your heart, but on social media, you could say whatever it is you want.
The, when you're looking at social media, when you're looking at these things, what's the biggest thought that goes through your head besides the comments, besides the conversations? Where do you run to mentally as for when it comes to social media? Is it I got to get away? I got to I got to explore more, see what's going on? Do you want to dive into the conversations that they're talking about, or do you excuse yourself? What do you go through when looking at
So
social media?
so prior to my podcast, I cared nothing about it. I would say something in my head,
Mm,
or I would say something to whoever may have been around me. But as far as commenting, I never was one of those people uh, that was big on that. I mean, I did it sometimes, but I was never one of those people that inserted myself into another conversation on
mm,
another post. And that's because I knew social media. I have a realistic understanding of how social media is. I know social media is fake. I know a lot of people get on there just to say stuff. So for
mm,
me, I will be on there defending myself all day if I sat there and got under people comments and said what it is that I felt. It's
mm,
gonna be 100 million people that's saying something completely different to me, and I can blatantly tell them what I feel, and they will still come back as if they don't understand. So I will forever be explaining myself. So I never really cared about social media ever. I never really been that big on it.
mm.
Once my podcast came though, I started realizing like I needed social media. Like, you know, as much as I don't like it, I need it.
It's where you
I
get your
gotta
details and everything from.
exactly. It just takes time to make sure that what you're reading or what you're getting
Hmm.
is legit. You feel me?
Right. Yeah.
You feel me? So that's basically how it is. And plus, earlier I was young, so social media it influenced me a lot, and that's kind of why I have that love hate relationship now, because I allowed it to influence me a lot. I would see things on social media, and I would try to apply it in my life, or whether it was women I was dealing with, I would try to apply it in my life, and I had to understand that social media was social media, and the real world was the real world.
With your voice now, the voice that you have, especially with podcasting, do you think that your comments would shift in a way that not only changes you but changes the people around you? Do you think that it's with the podcast you have more of a influence on the comments that you say now?
Repeat that one more time, because it went in and out. So I want to make sure I understood it before I answer.
Do you think that your comments, the things that you say on social media now, they have more of an influence with you being a podcast, with you having a platform?
Yeah, I do. And the reason I know is because before, if I did comment on somebody's stuff, ain't nobody really said nothing. It
Mm,
wasn't really major. But now, when they see that Culture Shift podcast or whatever, or Culture Shift HD, they definitely, I definitely get more responses now. And even so, I'm very more cognizant of what I respond and say.
hmm.
Like I don't. Before I used to, I just talk and say whatever, but now I try to say it in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
I the way I because the way I talked prior, I know it was kind of harsh sometimes, and it might come off
Hmm.
as, and it might somebody might take it offensive, and so now I do feel like I pay more attention to what it is that I say.
Hmm.
You know, I make sure that I kind of word it in a way that um that it still might get taken out of context sometimes, but I try my best to just word it in a way that's very precise and unfiltered,
Mm.
but not so like bad or harsh, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of to wrap it up, when when you look back at where you started and where you are now, where does this the culture shift? Where do you mark? Where does your life with this podcast? Where do you see it now?
Where Say that one more time.
With now looking back in your life, where you
Mm,
from where you started, where
mm.
does the culture shift your podcast? Where does everything that you've talked about, everything that you're building up, where do you see it now in the future?
Well, that's where the me kind of testing out certain things, because I'm trying to see these here where you do I know all podcasts, they or interviews or episodes, they always can't be face to face.
Hmm.
Sometimes you got to do that, you know. But I think that's kind of where I'm shifting in my focus to a little bit more. Um, the therapy sessions that I told you about, because
Hmm.
it's been a while. Like when you first start off your podcast, you even though you got a goal and the idea of what it is and how you want to do it, you really still just trying to find your niche,
Yeah.
your voice, how it is you want to do it for real. Because once you really put it out there, that's when things get real, and that's when you really start to understand and figure out what it is that you really want to do with your podcast. Because I'm sure you have so many ideas, you just really don't know what to do with them. So for me, it was more so storytelling, uh, reactions on certain things, bringing information. But now it's more so the therapy sessions I feel like are really needed, and that's really what I want to draw to. Get us together, man, and have conversations about whatever, about anything. Get that stuff off your chest, and so that's kind of why I see it now, man. I kind of see my podcast as being, because like like I said earlier, I did a podcast on mental health, and from my first episode, like I said, I never was trying to be the biggest.
Hmm.
As long as I can help one person, I'm cool with that. One, and that's what I was able to do with my mental health one. Somebody commented on there and literally let me know what it was that they was going through, because it was the same thing it was the same thing I had dealt with. It was the same thing I talked about on the podcast. And that's the thing that we never know. We always feel like we're our biggest competitors, for real. It starts with us. A lot of times we have these thoughts in our heads and we think and we feel like, man, that junk ain't gonna work. It don't sound right. It don't feel right. Ain't nobody else doing it, until you do it, or until you
Right.
try it. And then you realize, man, I should have been did that. And so it's all about growth. It's all about trying new stuff, not being scared to fail, or not even
Hmm.
fail, just not being scared to get criticized on something that might not be working. But at least you know now.
Hmm. I smiled as you were talking because um, for many that watch my podcast, for many that listen, they know that for 5 months I kind of took a break because I was in college. I had to leave, and then from then I kind of lost where I wanted to go. And you said you wanted to change one person at a time, and I realized that I'd lost so much of my influence, so much of my inspiration, so much of my drive that I have not said my phrase in a while, which is, if I can change one mind, that mind will change another, and those minds will change so many more and become a chain of changed minds. And I smile because it's these conversations are what brings back, hey, these are the things that you've been missing. These are the things that you could use. And so I thank you for that. I thank you for, this conversation because it's brought so much more to who I was as a podcaster, who I still want to be, and like you said, the growth that I still want to take. So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
And if I could say this one thing before we go,
Yeah.
this is the and I'm gonna say this to you. Don't ever feel like just because in a moment you don't know what you want to do, it's all right to take a step back from your podcast.
Hmm.
It's cool. It's
Yeah.
all right. You don't see you putting that pressure on yourself to deliver. Cause remember, it's always quality over quantity. You don't want to
Hmm.
just be putting out a bunch of bull BS. You
Hmm.
want it to be right. And for me, I took a long when I first started my podcast. Where I messed up is that I was looking at other people and I was trying to
Hmm.
emulate them.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how could, dang, I like that part. Let me try that. Nah,
Hmm.
be yourself. Be yourself. And I kid you not. This is what made me realize that I could just be myself. When I first started my podcast, I thought I had to have all my equipment right. I thought I had to have my backdrop right. I thought I had to have everything on point.
Yeah.
1090 Jake inspired me because I went back to his early videos when he first started in 2019.
Hmm.
It looked like he was recording on his phone in a room with barely any lighting.
Hmm.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So that gave me understanding like I don't have to be a professional out the gate. Long
Yeah.
as I'm putting out some real honest good content, that's all that matters. And another thing last, it's cool. It's gonna be times where you wake up and you feel like you just don't want to do nothing today. Or you
Yeah.
just feel like you just not inspired or motivated to work on your podcast. It's okay to feel like that sometimes because I get up and I feel like I don't want to do something. I'm gonna be honest with you. I woke up this morning and I was like, man, I'm just tired. I just want to lay here today. I knew I had to record a couple episodes. I knew I
Mm.
had to get on here and do this interview with you. So it's about just pushing. You push through that. And even if
Yeah.
you do feel like you don't know what you want to do, just take a step back. Give
Yeah.
yourself a couple days to refresh, recharge, and I guarantee you'll feel much better.
Yeah.
Just don't let that knock you out. If you don't want to do it no more, that's fine. But don't let it be because you feel like you don't want to do it no more. Let it be a legit reason. You got something else you want to do or something. But don't get into yourself, your own head, and you hurting yourself. That's what I had
Yeah.
to learn.
I thank you. I thank you. Guys, I thank you for watching. Mark, I thank you for inspiring not only me, but so many people that are going to be inspired. Thank you for sharing your story. I thank you for the genuine, the authenticity that you brought today. This was definitely different than what I did last week, and I appreciate it because, as I told you, I was sitting there, I was like, "Ah, man, I don't want to ask the same old questions. I don't want to do the same things. Like, and the fact that you just said, let's just talk. I was enough to say, okay, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he got. I can bring him on because when you are podcasting, when you're talking, just through the initial conversation, you can tell where somebody's head is at. You can tell what they want to do. You can tell a lot about themselves. And when you just said, let's just talk, that was enough to say, all right, I'm good. I know that if anything goes wrong, it's still going to be some good content that comes out of
There you
this.
go. There you
So
go.
I appreciate you.
There you
I
go.
appreciate just the time that you took today to be up here, guys. I thank you for watching. I thank you guys for just listening. Go ahead, shout out your podcast, your socials, so that everybody watching, for my fans, they can get to you too.
I appreciate that. Yeah, man. My socials is Culture Shift HD. That's CULTURE Shift SHIFT HD. That's all my socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and my YouTube is the Culture Shift Podcast.
Make sure you check him out. Make sure you check him out, guys. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate y'all. For his Mark's
Appreciate y'all.
fans, my fans, we just love y'all. And this is the end
Definitely.
of this podcast. We can't wait to see you soon.
All right.
Peace.